from Creative Expressions in New York City, why it works in a range of contexts, I think, in schools, in New York City, working, using hip-hop music and lyric writing and so forth to work with participants. So it's so great to have you here with us today. Why, thanks for joining us, and I'll hand over to you now.
All right, guys. First thing, just a mic check. Can you give me a thumbs up to let me know if the levels are okay? Cool. All right. I'm going to start with something known as negative space, which is the infinite silence that everything comes up. I know you guys, some of y'all have been here since several hours ago, 9 a.m. New York time. We're 4 hours early. We did our daylight savings, but I'm going to just invite everybody to take 2 or 3 breaths or just stretch in case you've been, whatever you've been doing, right? A lot of times as educators, facilitators, we do things from here, our minds, but a lot of things, especially within the pedagogy of hip hop, which I'm here to go into, has a lot to do with our bodies, kinesthetic. 90% of communication is nonverbal. So, take a moment to just once again feel good, reset yourself, and anything that I model for you guys or show you guys, it's what we call in hip hop royalty free, no sample clearance needed. You can take anything, you can borrow it, you can remix it, you can shape it. And more than what I do is teaching music, which is what I started in New York. As we stretch it out, a lot of education for music got removed. And of course, for those of you who might not know about early hip hop foundation, I'm going to just always give nod to the black and brown folks around the 1973 era. Some say a little before, but it's all up for debate. But it was just basically rooted in oppression. And something that I reference for any educator is, as before I go into this, is Paulo Freire's pedagogy of the oppressed. So I want us to think about all the people that have been here before us, all our ancestors, whether it's your great grandparents, that we all stand on a lineage. So before we get started, I'm just going to once again return to silence. And now that we stretched a little, just take 3 deep breaths. This is going to be a participatory thing, which means I'm going to be asking you guys to do something, but don't worry. I think if you can count to 4, you can get through any of my activities. And if you can't count to 4, I'm a judgment-free person. If you could go you'll be all right. So take 3 deep breaths. And when you inhale, just try to bring in a thought that calms you. And when you exhale, take something to release. So at your own pace, take 3 breaths. And if you're feeling good, just throw a thumbs up or a reaction. And I don't know, see? I get a lot of my work from Gardner's 9 types of intelligence. Nonverbal cues, just understanding. And a lot of what I teach is unlearning. I don't really teach too much. YouTube has that covered. A lot of you educators have learning and education covered. But what hasn't been covered is unlearning. Some of the things that we pick up, especially in fundamental ages from 0 to 10, carry with us in the way we receive information, and sometimes we have to untie those knots. So I'm gonna dive right into it. I could talk about accolades, about I did some bull for TED, or I've done curriculum for the United Nations or that, but that is not important. It's a little stunt. So that's the hip hop in me right there. It's been done, but what's really important is what you guys can embody. I'm gonna ask for a volunteer. And this is also part of hip-hop pedagogy. It is a participatory-based sport. It is something that we have to do. We cannot intellectualize it. We have to just jump into it. So don't worry, you'll survive. The worst that happens is you'll be asked to do a task and you'll receive gratitude for giving your best. That's the worst that will happen to you. So if you feel anxious about this, think about the way students feel anxious before tests. If you feel that you are the one that needs to be doing all the talking, I have heard a simple term that says participant-centered learning. So you guys are the participants, and we're going to learn something together with this simple activity. We're going to level up. So if anybody wants to volunteer in the chat or, throw a hand raise, we'll just get on this journey together and hopefully have a little fun. And we're going to just start with a simple call and response activity. And if anybody would like to volunteer, please let that be known by writing in the chat or throwing up a emoji or icon that I can see, and I will gladly utilize your services.
You take us.
I love it. This is the reason. Yes, this is the reason. This is the reason we have. Who said that? Which brave soul said that?
You could do it from here.
Yeah, okay.
Or from your screen, whichever you like.
I'm not
Okay. I just want to make sure I got the right person. Okay, that's it, under the launch network right there, right? Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna start with something really simple. I'm gonna do a call, and what you're gonna do is a response, and what we're gonna do is just mirror each other first. So I'm gonna ask you with your fingers to just do this. No words necessary. Nice. Okay. And now I'm gonna ask you to add to that with each raise of the finger by numbering it to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Great. And we're gonna level this activity up. Oh, the scary stuff. I'm gonna ask you to do that 4 times in a row. I will model, and then I'll pass it to you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Make some reaction for that. So without even knowing it, you just learned how to count measures in common time in music in a 4/4 time signature for 4 bars or 4 measures, and you just held a steady tempo. Clap that up. There it is. Congratulations, I'm done. I'm out of here. Pete, let me know if that was all right. I'm messing around with you guys, right? But I really bring that point home. That wasn't complex. It was a simple activity, right? How many times do we get in the way with hyper intellectually philosophizing, theorizing things? Show, then tell. It's not going to be show, don't tell. But, I didn't say, hey, you're going to learn how to common time in music that was around 94 BPM, roughly, something around there. But I didn't do that. I just asked somebody to come with me, take a chance. I modeled. I did not ask the participant to do anything that I wasn't willing to do. And I'm going to take this activity a level up. We can keep the same participant, or we can get some fresh flower or a new person to try this. It's going to get slightly difficult, but not much more harder. I would encourage someone else to give this a shot.
Yeah, I could go back to work as well.
Yes. Let this lovely being go back to work. But if this is making you feel uncomfortable, if this is feeling challenged, if you are feeling shy, welcome to the world of the students. Welcome to the world of the youth. Welcome to the world of anxieties and depressions and all that beautiful stuff that we all come to every situation with that we can't escape. But we can do things that make it easier. So I'm going to ask for another brave volunteer. We're going to continue on with it.
I think we have a brave volunteer in Beata.
Yes, there we go. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Look at that smile and that sunshine, right? Who said the UK doesn't get sunlight? That's a bad rumor going on over here. All right, and this is what we're gonna do now. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm gonna ask you to make up something that you can repeat. So I'll do it with my fingers again, modeling, and then you don't have to use the phrase or whatever I do. You can do anything that takes up those 4 counts. So I'll try something like boogie, woogie, woogie, woo, boogie, woogie, woogie, woo. So that's my phrase that lasted 4 beats, and I repeated it twice, and you can feel free to create one or use the same one if you get stuck.
Don't forget to put your microphone on when you're ready, Beata.
Yeah, I'm still thinking. Okay. Sunshine, rain, flower, clouds. Sunshine, rain, flower, clouds.
Clap that up, make some noise. That was 2 bars. done without common time. So now from counting 2 measures in common time and 4 bars in common time, a 1 measure phrase was created and repeated, which could have been 2 lines to a poem, could be an opening line to a song, or it could be a melody that could be transcribed onto a guitar or a piano or something. Just these very simple things get so much overlooked within our work, not only within music education, but just in education in general. And that negative space that we all felt during when we were stretching, during when volunteers were choosing or not choosing, it's actually where the learning happens, when people are self-reflecting or doing something. Contrary to some of the belief systems in dinosaur-based education, I don't know if that's a proper term, they think that the education happens when people are talking. You have to reflect on it and do something and be able to create an internal relationship to whatever it is that we are doing. So with that said, I'm going to take this activity 1 level further, and then we're going to stop it right there, right? Just to show you guys, this is using kinesthetic learning, this is using auditory learning, this is using visual of seeing the fingers in the hand, several types of things. Just a very, very simple method. You want to go again, or should we get a 3rd volunteer to kick it up to our final? This is our grand finale, guys, of the torture that you guys are going to go through, right? That you guys may have put some of your students through on a regular basis. Can I have one last volunteer to take it home? Once again, we're also culminating. Everything is based on that foundation that I gave, and we're slowly building up, right? Can I get one more brave?
It looks to me like Beata would be up for it, but do we have another volunteer?
We got one.
Oh,
Yes. Kieran, yay. Thank you. Thank you to all our powerful women who hold down this planet, so-called Earth. So I'm going to level it up one more time, but this time, instead of repeating something, I'm going to ask you to do something called improv. So within this 1, 2, 3, 4, twice, you're going to have freedom to do whatever you want. And then I'm going to come up with a little simple chorus, and I'm going to say that chorus. Then I'm going to give myself 2 of those 4 counts to kind of do what I do. And that's it. So I'll model, and then of course I'll fill in my 2 measures, and then you can fill in yours with whatever you want. So my chorus is very simple. 2 bars and pass, 2 bars and pass, 2 bars and pass, make the cipher last. Ah, 2 bars and pass, 2 bars and pass, 2 bars and pass, make the cipher last. All right. You can do it once more at the end, the chorus if you want, or not, your choice. There's some freedom in here, but have fun and give it a shot.
Did you want me to freestyle in the 4 bars where you're making the R noise? Sorry.
Yeah, you're not asked to freestyle. You're asked to fill up that.
That's what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah. No rapping is required. No lyrics are required. Just filling up that space. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm not a hip hop artist. I'm like, cool, great, but just fill up the space with that. No rapping needed. If you choose to, great. If you don't, but that's it. Chorus, your 2 measures of whatever you want, and then the chorus again if you choose.
Okay. Are you going to count me in? Sorry.
No.
I'm freezing up here, mate. If you give me the time, there you go. Nice one. Okay, so cumin kicks, impacts, ass. Cumin kicks, impacts, ass.
Great job. That was the 2 bars, right? She chose not to do the chorus. Did I scold her? She tried to tap into me. I tapped back, but I showed some support. A lot of these very simple methods, right? I can show you guys some deep complex arrangements with 12-piece bands, which I've done. But the fundamental of everything is always based in simplicity. Everything that is complex can be broken down into several simple steps. It's also about building comfort and building a place where people feel confident in their expression. I'm now going to show you guys a video of some music that the music The instrumentation, the video was all directed by students, all under the age of 18. There is one caveat to understand about this. None of the students ever rapped before. Some of them may have played around with it, but none of them considered themselves a musician, an MC or that. None of them considered themselves a director or any of those things, but they were given an opportunity to explore these things. And within 11 sessions, this is what they ended up creating. And then they took this to something. So we're going to show some work done by the youth and then a little bit of a testimony to get their philosophy behind it. And then I'm going to go back to you guys and we're going to kind of break it down a little bit. So I will share screen if that is all right. If for any reason technology goes haywire, it is the backup video that I sent to you guys. It's called I Gotta Get 'Em, but I will try and do my best at this moment to let my screen share tell a story. Okay. Great. Share sound button. Share. Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up if you see like a white logo with a circle? And yeah, that's great. So here's a video. And then let me know if you hear sound. I will maximize the video.
I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him.
We do this for the clout. We do this for the fame. This in the game, I'm keeping it real. Forget how you feel. Keep some food up on the plate, just to feed my daughter. Keep a little nine for the ops. Shots wet like water. Tryna make some money for the fam, can't let them starve, I don't give a damn. Used to be my bro up on the streets, can't believe you tried to run me. Had to stand my ground, all the pressure on me, I just had to get him. Now he buried up deep.
I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him.
Living day to day, trying to stay alive, and your death hurt me, so much pain inside. Look my little girl in the eyes, and I said I wish it wasn't true. Her already pull a trigger on you on the avenue. Now I'm on the way to get him, hand up on the grip. Seen him on the corner, hopped up out the whip. Pulled up on him with the 9 out. Tell my cousin life is just mine now. Think you so real, let me find out. Kill for a kill, you know what this about. Got the gun back, someone jumped up the car. Screaming, please don't shoot. A little girl stand at me scarred. I didn't have the heart to take another for this life. I know it's just a cycle. Is it really worth the price?
I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him.
A life for a life, looks just like honest. One of revenge from me and his homie. One of his brother, one of his brothers. Put the gun down so others are shown. The circle of violence should never prevail. Serving time inside the jail cell. Thought that killing wouldn't be hell. Think again, this shit is real. Maybe in the air you could have hit, but you ain't got a gun and entered the field. You wanted to get him, I knew you had reason. If you did, it would've been treason. God give you life, it wasn't this reason. I go live your life, you gotta keep breathing. You gotta keep breathing.
I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him all over these streets. I gotta get him, the heels on me. I gotta get him. Yeah, I gotta get him. I gotta get him.
I should know the risks, but in the end, I just set an example. Not just for me, but for my community. Because if not me, who else? Homies didn't turn it into casualties because dudes got me wasting time. Saying I gotta get him, I gotta end this violence. For the people who die in silence.
We are your SOS. 33 people are murdered with guns every day in our country.
You have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world. And you have to do it all the time. Angela Davis. Stop shooting, start living.
All right, guys, a little love for the youth, them. So I'll drop my share so I can see y'all lovely faces. Once again, I never go into a site or a space telling anybody they're gonna rap. I never ever use the term genre. I just say, we're going to come and create something. And I ask them what's on their mind, what's on their heart, what sounds are representative. And then I start to teach fundamentals of music, which has nothing to do with the genre. And whatever people choose to create, we create. I use the latest of technology, which is my 2012 MacBook that still has the CD drive. I carry a small 25 key MIDI controller, and we emulate the sounds from our voices, and then I'll bring in like a guitar or some instrument, and we look at what we have, very similar to Stone Soup. If somebody has something, or somebody had a skill, such as they might have played piano in the church or something, I really focus on creating an environment to allow people to problem solve and figure things out, instead of coming with a clear, this is what we're going to do, this and this. I said, our job is to create something. The park that you saw them in, unfortunately, there was a murder of a young person, about 16 years old at the time. And the organization that you've seen at the end, YOSOS, Youth Organizing to Save the Streets, did a casting call, if you will, for youth that were interested in saying something about the situation. Over the course of 3 months, they were given peer mediation tactics, anti-violence work, pro-peace work, if you will. And then they were asked, what do they want to do? And they said they wanted to create a piece of art. This was their choice. And then they found me. And then at the last month, I was given the task to listen to what they had to say and create something with them. And the site wanted me to make an entire album. And I was like, no, it's not going to be possible. Won't do it. I said, I'm going to do one song. They got so mad at me and said, why one song? I said, well, from beginning to end, I'm going to show them the process, from composing the music to coming up with the lyrics, to formatting the song, to recording it, to mixing, to mastering, and then to directing the video, creating the video, and then releasing it. So I said, rather than ask for so much, why doesn't everybody do a little thing? Not every student did vocals on the track. Some picked the background. Once again, the multiple intelligences that I'm going to keep on bringing back home. Some were allowed to become the tech that hit the record button. Some were allowed to compose the music, and that was a choice. And we all asked them to pick a concentration that they were most inclined to do. Some of you may have seen the Einstein fish meme or comic strip that says, to be fair, we're going to give you all the same test. And it'll say, climb the tree. So there's like a fish in a bowl, and the fish is like, I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to get nothing. The monkey is like, I got this. This is no problem. The elephant's like, I could knock down this tree, but I'm not going up there, you know? And this is the way that sometimes is translated into education. How are we expecting people to all follow standardized testing or certain things that are no longer there? I am a university dropout. I have now taught people with doctorates and on the highest levels of education. And the first question, which is my moniker, I go is, why am I here? Why am I someone who's a musician? Why am I here in an educational environment? And I'm going to ask you guys that question. Guys, give me a time check in the chat too. Let me know how I'm doing. But I want to turn to you guys, and we're going to hear some of the youth testimony. But I want to ask you guys a question. Why do you think we're even talking about this, what this whole conference and workshop is about? I want to hear some words from you guys and some thoughts. And also, this is my method. Anytime I say something, I'm mindful not to go on too long without going back to the participants. So this is another director's cut kind of thing that I do. And everything I do must be, in my mind, simple. Okay, music creates change. Yes, throw it in the chat if anybody wants to. Why is music being put so much into education now? Why is the arts now, it's being defunded in a lot of places, but anyone who knows, which are top educators, are now understanding that arts have a real high place in education. Yes, communication. I love it. Communication through etymology can be broken down to community, and unity. Yes, communication and unity. We are in a position that we put others in now. Yes, we spent a lot of the last session talking about how to communicate effectively, the impact. You have modeled expert communication, how to engage. Thank you, guys. That's why I get the Schmedium bucks, right? That's it. So with that said, guys, these things are here. I'm going to go into some youth testimony because I know a big thing about what you guys are looking is, how do we get the data? How does this work? How do you make sure? Pete told me when we did this call, he said, we need to make sure you're just not a charismatic individual that got struck by lightning. And I said, wait a minute. Let's make everybody charismatic individuals. And that comes from authenticity, right? I'm confident in what I do because it's something that radiates. And when I ask somebody to do something, they feel something that comes from a trust, which is me going along the process with them, right? So we're going to hear a little bit from what the youth have to say. A big part of what I do is I document as well as create. So in addition to making the video and the song, during this process, we're constantly throwing feedback circles and assessing what we're doing with the students, which I also shout out Paulo Freire for participatory action-based research, also known as PAR. You can look it up. I'll show you guys some cool stuff on it right there. While this video plays, team, I have no sense of time and space at this moment. Let me know how much time we got left. I know this thing goes by like greased lightning, but I'm gonna do my best to also make sure, like, you guys have questions, and there's some cool stuff I could show you, but the internal things that are happening within you is what we call over here in New York is the sauce. All right, 23 minutes left. Yes, look at me. I'm good on time, right? Musicians, great on time. All right, I'm going to show you guys some youth testimonies, and you'll hear some of their words because, as the great LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow said, in case you know the show, don't take my word for it.
The main topic that we're focusing on in this piece is anti-gun violence.
We're telling a story how gun violence affects people and their family members.
Because they're trying to make sure that gun violence is either lessened or stopped in a way.
It's showing how we can use writing a song to spread more awareness.
We could come out and just be like, yeah, like guns are bad, like don't use them, or we can like try to be a little more creative with it, and they chose to go the more creative route.
The challenge was trying to find the right perspective to kind of write the lyrics in.
Actually, like, write with others is new to me. I mean, shit is writing alone. Because it's like, rather than me just getting my own bars, which is suitable for me, I have to find something that's suitable for everyone.
I love writing lyrics. I love expressing my feelings, other feelings about any type of topic. And I feel like this experience is letting me express myself, one, and two, let other people know what is happening in the world.
Production went very well. We got a lot of input from a lot of students, basically on sound choices and structure of the beat.
Because the way that we did it, we did the beat first, and then we did the lyrics. Yeah, I was already making lyrics before, so to have to like fix the structure was interesting.
I don't know like the different like chorus and all that. Like when they be talking about that, I don't understand it. But so far, like me inputting in drums and piano and stuff like that.
Because of how my voice would sound, like would I be too loud? Would I be too, low? Would my voice sound cracky? All of that. Like I was thinking about all of that while I was recording.
It was a cool experience, like to get like be in the role of like in the music video, having y'all to teach me how it was done.
We're in the process of making a music video. For this music video, there's multiple parts that we're doing.
Like I'm having like a lot of creative ideas and stuff, and I'm being introduced to all the aspects of making a music video, and I know how all my favorite rappers and artists make their music videos. I'm mad excited, like it's mad cool.
There's three different perspectives: the shooter, the victim, and the narrator. I'm the narrator, and as the narrator, I'm basically summing up everything that happened in the story to make sure that everything is clear.
It's cool though. It's a cool experience to get to know how to like see myself really doing this. Like it's on YouTube, people can see this, people can view it.
I just had to like put my own, you know what I'm saying? I had to put my own like me into it.
And like I felt like I had control in a way, because it's like, okay, like everybody's like amping me up, everybody's giving me a vibe, and it's just like me and the camera, so like I felt like I had control in that moment, and like I wanted to like take advantage of that moment. So I used everything possible. I felt every word, I felt every lyric, and, I did what I had to do, and I killed it.
We are your SOS.
All right, guys, one more little reaction for our youth, or big reaction, or medium reaction, or no reaction. The choice is yours. As was their work. Once again, a lot of it is, when I used to start writing lesson plans about 10 years ago, I used to write these really deep, in-depth things. Now, a lot of my lesson plans are very few sentences. And then it's just about giving something, an activity, and then allowing things to happen. That took me a while to get to. I would say it maybe took me 3 to 5 years, because, you know, they would label me ADD'd out. You know, I was blessed to come from a family where, you know, my father was diagnosed bipolar and schizophrenic. My brother fell into drug addiction. So I say with all honesty, I was blessed with these opportunities, because when I would see people who were like, quote unquote, bugging out or doing something that another person would fear, I would just be like, yeah, cool. Like, how can we show up with that? I also advocate for uncensored environments where people can freely express themselves. And I just really, yes, thank you. I just really hold space more than anything. And then I listen. You know, physiologically, we were born with 2 of these. You know, shout out to anybody who may not have 2 and 1 of these, right? So by the law of anatomy, listening more than we speak, hence negative space. Listening to your participants, creating environments where they feel leadership and also feel heard, and then supporting that. You know, I tell everybody my role is I'm your backup singer. I'm here to take what ideas you have and back them up and help you. Right? This is really, really beautiful. And that's really what goes on. And yes, over the last decade or so, we've been taking these methods. And the big issue that I have whenever I present my work is they're like, oh, that's what we want. We want to do this. And I go, well, is that what the participants want? And a lot of times they ask me to provide like a cookie cutter thing. Like, is it 10 classes, 5 weeks, 2 days a week, 3 to 5? And then I go, I don't know. I have to talk to the participants. And then they were like, well, what is, and then once again, I unweave that. And I said, what are we doing here? What's the goals? Well, we need the students to do this. Do you need them? What do they want to do? Can we bring them into the discussion? And they'll be like, I'm like, all right, yeah, so maybe we should ask them what the goals are. Maybe we should take a moment to stop and listen more. And maybe we should allow them to take leadership and them to be more hands-on in the creation of the curriculum, in the deliverables and the outcome. If this work is meant to serve them, because a lot of time it's not. It's meant to earn credits. It's meant to fill a quota of, you know, NGOs over there or nonprofit organizations here that has very little to do with what happens to the individuals who are participating. So with participant-centered learning, social and emotional learning, these are the education buzzwords that I've learned. I did it naturally. And then as my work got further and further exposed, I started to work with, once again, educators, principals, program directors, and then now I went from being a teaching artist to I get brought on board to work collaboratively to design curriculum, to train educators, and the way that I've worked with the youth, now I'm working with adults because I think the adults need a lot more help than the youth do. That's my opinion. The youth are intrinsic to certain things, and a lot of times they have picked up skills, and we can create platforms where they can teach us, which is always why I never use the word teacher. I use the word facilitator, the Latin origin of the word facile, which is to make easy. I feel my job is to look at a task and to make it very simple, and then to create the simple steps that allow some of the large goals, which, you know, I've done this with orchestras, I've done this with one person and a sheet of paper, and everything in between. And in my mind, it's the same thing. I do want to turn the mic to you guys before I play another video where, you know, just to see what's coming in. Once again, my approach is very simple, and I hope it's inspiring some simplicity in you guys. And think of the activities that were modeled in the beginning. Think of the ways that they are here, but, you know, just hit me with something. It could be a reaction, a thought. You know, I feel like I've been talking too much.
There was an interesting question, actually, I thought, from Caitlin Bork. Why, if you'd be happy, if Caitlin would be happy to to ask the question, or I can read it out on her behalf.
No, it's okay. So I used to teach in Toledo, Ohio, and there's a lot of gun violence there. And the way kids reacted to it was, I kind of had to censor what they would say sometimes because it wasn't quite school appropriate. So did you ever find that you had to censor things that they would say, or what kind of different or controversial opinions did they have? Yeah, what's your experience?
Yes, that's such a beautiful question, Caitlin. And a lot of the environments are censored. So I have a tactic that's, once again, super simple. If anything isn't simple, it's not me. I ask them to understand that they're in an environment that, whether it be a school or a community center that, prohibits the use of everything. I say, we're going to have to make something that's a radio version of this. What I do ask the site to do is, can we speak openly and uncensored within this environment, but make sure that certain content is created? So that is censored. So I have to earn trust. Trust is never something that's given to me. I let them know that, hey guys, part of the challenge of me working in this workshop is this is going to require you guys to be censored. Does anybody have an issue with that? And then, somebody will be like, yeah, that, I'm from New York. It's very common to hear very vulgar language from very beautiful people. I want to mention that too. So what I say is, can we hold space for this? And then, we come up with some things which are agreements. I don't use the word rules. I usually play on like a record deal and I say, we need to deal with each other. How are we going to deal with each other? And then we'll agree that, all right, nothing that puts somebody down, So then they'll be like, they might say, yo, I don't, pardon my language, but I don't give a shit about school. I'm not going to punish them for that. But like, we're not going to go be derogatory to someone and say, hey, so-and-so's shirt is ugly and they smell funny or something like that. We're not going to allow that. But if somebody's like, I had a real effed up day today, we'll work on that. And then with that foundation, I build it. And then in environments, sometimes there's ciphers or some things we create that are not recorded and not going to be put out. I allow for them to speak freely. And then if anyone within the group, once again, which is why it's not the banking model of education, it's what I call cipher pedagogy. Or once again, hip hop is more of my pedagogy than my music style. The group then says, hey, that doesn't make me feel good. And we actually engage in those conversations, or this is wrong, or da-da-da-da-da. And we actually end up building on it. And then if someone goes, yo, I don't think that that's offensive, and someone else does think that's offensive, we engage in dialogue, and then we come to an agreement where we agree that the whole group must agree. So that's how I take care of that problem. It's only worked 100% of the time for me. So that's the only experience I have within creating it. Once again, the methods are to let them know that the content we create must be a radio edit or censored. I encourage them to express themselves freely. I do my best to hold space. I do break rules a lot of times because as long as, I'm doing what I'm doing, I'll get by. I'm fully aware of my being. I'm fully aware of what my intentions are and what my purpose is. And yeah, most of the times I violate DOE rules all the time. I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, but I am encouraging people to live in their truth and to follow that truth and to encourage other people to do the same and to come with love and respect, which is what I come with. And because I come with that, and when I draw a line on something, they understand that I'm a person that is not stopping them from doing something, but we're in a certain situation that has certain challenges, which is all of life. And I found that when human beings are presented things in that way, they are in full agreement. And when the group is allowed to bring their thoughts to the forefront and engage in dialogue, which will then sometimes make the music creation take longer. And I'm for that. I'm all for that. So yeah, I do deviate. I break rules. I get consensus from the group. I create space for that. And then, I make sure that within the group, nobody takes offense to it and nobody is taking that. Because if one person feels uncomfortable, we then say, all right, we got to change this. And like I said, it's only worked 100% of the time for me for 10 plus years. I do not know what anybody's experience is, and I don't know if anybody will have the same experience. But I think a lot of it does have to do with the way I present it, the way that I'm honoring it, and I don't make it like you have to do this. And I think it's not necessarily what you do, but how you do it is very important. I also make sure that I kind of like show some de-escalation tactics that I'm going to pull up in a minute. I hope that answers the question. And I also encourage them to write uncensored too. So if they can't express uncensored, if it's a free writing session, they can then write something to themselves that is as vulgar as needed to be, as offensive as needed to be, but they're never asked to not. I just kind of create a space where that's accepted, even if it's just in their own book to themselves, if that makes sense. And that's something that, yeah, and there are challenges, not everybody, but I think what happens is the group tends to work it out and the conversations happen. Sometimes people get upset, sometimes people get angry, sometimes people get sad. And I understand that those are welcome in spaces that I facilitate.
Thanks, Why. That was a very comprehensive answer. Thank you so much. There was an interesting comment from Raphael, which I'll turn to in a minute, or sort of a question or a theme I think he could perhaps speak to. Can I ask you something quickly, though, if I may? You spoke quite early on about unlearning, and then there was a section a bit later on where it seemed quite like a somewhat critical stance regarding the let's say school curricula that normally exist versus the kind of alternative Palafrarian influenced approach that you take. So I think the question is, to what extent you feel oppositional in what you do, or is there space for what you do to fit within the existing system? And part of the reason I ask that is because there was some really interesting debate in our last section before yours in relation to measurement of impact and whether, and I felt that part of what was at stake in that very interesting debate was around sort of the system as it exists and the world outside of it, which for our purposes is, for example, hip hop and so forth, that is sort of outside of the, well, it kind of both is and isn't the mainstream because it's sort of hugely popular, but at the same time sort of kept to one side. So yeah, that's, so the question is, to what extent would you say what you do is really oppositional to the educational establishment, or to what extent can it work within that system? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pete. That's a beautiful question. Any curriculum I've written, when I've been asked to do so, it ends up meeting every educational standard that is found within Common Core that is needed to. Some in the way we are in the States, some of the different states have slightly different work. So what I do is very simple. They send me a site that has a list of all core standards. And for example, one will say like individualized and collaborative learning on a thematic based topic, Common Core C30158.2. And I'll be like, check. I never write the curriculum looking at the standards. I write it, I do it, and then I find the standards that meet it. And then they will sometimes bring, like when I do it with certain sites, they will then bring on, like, they'll pair me up with like a teacher or the head of the, English department or math department or science who's well versed in this. And then I literally will just be like, what's the goal? And then I'll come up with something, and then we collaboratively like look through those standards, but we don't look at the standards and then make it, if that makes sense, right? It's really there with it. I think a big part of what my work is, I don't look at it as oppositional to the system. I look at it as educational reform, just like certain things get outdated. A lot of our music education is based on a model from the 1800s. I am really into jazz music. I'm really into classical music. I study theory. I study composition. I study arrangement. I think all these things are very, very beautiful and have their place. I think really what I'm brought in to do is I'm only brought in when something isn't working, which is very, very unique to what it is, because I meet teachers that are like, we can't get our students to focus, or our classrooms are overcrowded. And then, I'm really brought in to kind of help address a problem and be a support. So I look at myself as almost like somebody who is solving problems. I wear this hat a lot of time. It says, if you see how the way it's right there.
That's great. Thank you. That's a very excellent answer to my question.
That's what I do. I'm there to do it. And if there's no problem and things are working fine, I'm usually not needed. But I think we all know that every certain time period, certain things change. The way we communicate, like, look, we all learned Zoom, right? In these last 2 years, right? This is an example of some of us. I throw up emojis because I'm ADD'd out. You see speakers flying out from me. Look, I changed my positioning. I let loose my hat, right? These are all things that I have now kind of brought from my subconscious awareness to my conscious mind. And I look at all of us as permanent students. So when I come into systems, once again, some of them are fixed mindset, but what I do is I present what's known as a growth mindset, and I ask if we're willing to challenge our thoughts and do something that creates the desired outcomes or deliverables, not only for the educators and the site, but for the participants themselves. And then once those principles are built on, we're able to create a solid foundation. And I work a lot with people who are not necessarily like musically inclined or that, but they believe in some of these common things, which are social emotional learning, participant centered, just really breaking down certain models. And as long as we agree on that, I can do it. And then once again, I step away from situations where, you know, it might not be there. And then I'll say, hey, maybe something more traditional is suited. So it's also about knowing what, you know, not everything is for everybody. So I don't come like this is the supreme answer for certain things, but I found something that works and has allowed me to, you know, express and help now, not only the youth, but facilitators. And it's becoming more and more, I'm getting more and more called to help educators now in the past 5 years than I am being called to help students who are tending to, at least over here in the States, they're tending to leave school and obtain information in other ways beyond our school system. And some of them are achieving education real well. Education does not always equate to school. Education equates to learning. And I'm an education. I'm into education. All right. I hope that made some sense.
That was really comprehensive. Thank you. I think it's time now to say thank you so much, Wyatt. That was so illuminative.
All right. I did want to. We got any time? I have a couple things to show you guys. Little slides. I got 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, if it's very quick, because we do have to wrap up on time.
Okay, I'm gonna do two minutes, guys, and I'll share this with Pete so he can mail it out to everybody. But a couple things, because I know I verbally communicated, but I want to make sure I engage in some other learning. This is a video of teachers reacting. And one thing that I want to say is, when you think of cipher pedagogy, what is it, how to use it, and why is it important? That's the 3 questions I propose to you guys. How can you create circular-based learning where there is no hierarchy? That is really the big gist of what I do. Simple. What is it? Is looking at your goals, your outcomes, and the skill set, and what is the passions of not only the participants, but the facilitator as well. And why is it important? It helps us create something. The simple thing that I do is I drew this tree. I'm not the most great visual artist, but developing skills and purpose through, you know, these are my skills. And then, you know, you teach those in order to see these things fall back into the community and build more of it. So it becomes a cycle. And then, you know, when I talk to youth, I speak to them about how they can get careers doing this. So there's a career development aspect. It's not just music education. It's beautiful things like that. For what you guys mentioned earlier, I suggest looking up de-escalation tactics, which are things that allow me to reset every time I feel like I'm getting off from losing the group. Don't rush the process, to give space, validate the feelings and experience of your participants. Don't take things personal. You know, a lot of times I start out with some of the students not liking me, and then at the end of and the teachers too, and then at the end of a semester or so, we'll always get there. And then remember the end goal and keep yourself on that. Howard Gardner's 9 Types of Intelligence is a whole book that you can read on that goes over some of the methods I use: linguistic, kinesthetic, interpersonal, auditory, existential. It dives really deep into those basic 9. And remember, not everybody's not 1, but on different things, we are different types. And then the PAR is the simple thing I wanted to show you guys. Come up with a hypothesis, give it a shot, do some research, take an action, and then go back into it, and it becomes this circle of adjusting, recreating, adjusting, recreating. And that's it. Very simple, guys. Thank you so much. Don't want to go over time. I will send some of these videos and handouts to Pete to distribute as you guys need, but I'm very honored to be here, and I want to just thank you guys so much, and I appreciate you guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much, White. Absolutely fantastic. If you could stop sharing your screen now, that would be great. And if you can put up some virtual applause or whatever, but that was so great.